And we're live. Hello, everybody, Instagram world. My name is Roger Morgan. I'm the founder and CEO of Paw Tree, and I am super excited to be with you today live. We've got a really great lunch and learn topic, and it's going to be, I think it's going to really be a great time today. So we've been doing these for a few weeks, and it's been really fun. Impact that we're having to help educate pet parents and help empower pet parents to learn a little bit more about healthy, pet ownership. And so joining me today is Miss Brooke Slow. Hello, Brooke. How are you?
Hey, Roger, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for
Good.
joining me. It's fun to be on Instagram today. We've got folks coming on, I can see. Welcome, everybody. We're happy to have you. And Brooke and I are really excited today to talk about a topic that I know is near and dear to all of our hearts. I know we're calling this Lunch and Learn, and lunch is not the
I'm
best time to
sorry,
talk
guys.
about poop. But we're going to do it. We're going to do it, aren't we, Brooke? We're going to talk about loose stool and when is loose stool something that's more dangerous, and by default, when is it not? And so we're going to cover that, and with no further introduction, Brooke, I'll turn it over to you. Let's get started. This is a topic that I know all of us, deal with dog poop every day, every single day of our lives, dog and cat poop, right? This is part of being a pet parent, and sometimes there are things that poop is telling us. And so just getting started here, as we think about, pet parents, that that don't like dealing with diarrhea. I know I don't like dealing with diarrhea. It's certainly uncomfortable, for our pets, and certainly uncomfortable for us to clean up after it. And you don't like to see your pets in distress. So, what would cause a pet to have diarrhea? Let's start there. What is the cause of this diarrhea that we sometimes experience in our pets?
So it's a very good question, and it's a very good place to start. And again, my apologies, you guys. You'll hear me say this a lot. It's all about the waste. And if you can understand what you're looking for with your pet's waste, and if you observe your pet's waste, you will learn an awful lot of information about their health. Okay, so your question was what could cause diarrhea? And there are
Yes.
many things that could cause a pet to get diarrhea. So, for instance, they could eat something in the yard or while on a walk or at the dog park, like leaves or mulch. Maybe they eat some people food that's rich and just doesn't agree with them, right? No
Yep.
people food, right? Also, when changing their diet, you always want to give a pet a proper transition period when you change to a new food, even even amongst brands between varieties, okay, of food. So usually introducing the new food over a 5 to 7 day period, mixing more and more of the new food in with the old food each day, or more and more of the new food, with the old food. And
Yep.
so on the last day, they're on 100% of the new food. The issue is that pets have a very sensitive digestive tract, and so you want to keep their base diet constant, so as not to upset their stomachs. That's why we talk about pop pairings, because that's a great way to change up their food without changing their diet dramatically. But there is another reason we're hearing about more and more, and
Okay.
that's something called giardia.
Okay, I've heard of giardia. I actually thought it was pronounced giardia, but giardia. Okay, so
Giardia.
giardia. So help us. That is something I have heard about. What is that?
Giardia is actually a parasite, and it can infect
Hmm.
the gastrointestinal tract of many animals, including dogs and cats, and also including humans. And it will cause diarrhea, it could cause vomiting, weight loss, they could be lethargic, although many infected animals show no signs at all. So they could have it and show no signs, or they could have it and you'll see massive diarrhea. So there's different types of giardia that infect different types of animals. It's rare for giardia from a pet to transmit to a human. Also, dog and cat giardia species are different and cannot cross from a dog to a cat or a cat to a dog.
Okay.
So, stays within species. Giardia is common throughout the United States and can cause infections at almost any time of the year. Unlike other infectious organisms, Giardia stays longer in the environment when conditions are cool and moist. They like cool and moist, okay? Most dogs become infected by drinking contaminated water with feces. And I'm
Hmm.
going to talk more about that in a moment because you're going to say, well,
Okay.
my dog doesn't drink water with
Water
feces
with
in it.
feces. That's right. Yeah.
But I'm going to explain
We
how
hope.
that can happen. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because I know you all give your pets fresh water. But then Giardia will then infect the small intestine, and infected dogs pass or shed these microscopic cysts in their stool, and these cysts can infect another dog if ingested. The Giardia cysts are very resistant in the environment, can live for many months under the right conditions. Remember, cool and moist. And Giardia is a very common cause of diarrhea in the United States, and we get more and more calls about pets having diarrhea, and this is actually what it ends up being.
Interesting. So I have a question for you. Can pets get giardia from the food they eat?
No.
Okay.
Giardia is not caused by processed food. They cannot
Okay.
get it from the food. So if you've changed your food and they have giardia, and I'm going to explain how you know that, that's just a coincidence, that the
Okay.
timing is just coincidental. Okay, it's not caused by food. But they can get it several ways. Okay, so I mentioned that most dogs become infected by drinking contaminated water with feces. Okay, I'm going to explain that in a second how that happens. But they can
Okay.
also become infected from eating feces of another dog directly. So if you have a
Mm.
stool eater,
Yep. We've seen those.
that because the giardia is shed, those cysts are shed in their stool. Okay,
Okay.
okay. So let's talk about the feces for a moment. A dog could go outside and step in some infected feces and then lick it off their paws later, right? So that's a way they can get it. Another way is to ingest it from contaminated water outside that might contain the parasite. Again, it's shed
Mm-hmm.
in another pet species. Or they can step in that contaminated water and bring it inside where they lick the water off their paws. Or they can give it to other pets inside the house by tracking in some contaminated feces or contaminated water that the other pets then ingest because they've now brought the parasite inside. So
Okay.
here's a simple example of how this can happen. Let's say you live at the bottom of a hill, or just you know, at the bottom of an incline, and a dog is at that top of the hill or the top of that incline, and that dog
Yeah.
has giardia, and they go to the bathroom and they shed some infectious offspring known as the cysts in their feces in their backyard. Now the feces stays in their backyard, and it starts to rain. And the rainwater carries those infectious cysts shed in dog A's feces at the top of the hill or a few houses up from you down to your yard where your dog goes out to potty. Your dog steps in that contaminated water, okay, in your yard and goes inside and licks his paws. And now your dog may have giardia as well as maybe other dogs in your home because they brought it inside your home. It's that easy, okay?
Yeah. It can
Um,
happen without even knowing, even to the best of us, no matter how well we plan or how protective we are, it just can happen by life.
yeah, it's in the environment, right?
Yeah.
You can't protect your yard from rainwater and things like
Yeah.
that, right?
Or you're taking your pet to the dog park or on a walk where there's plenty of other pets who have been there before and you don't know what's going on with those animals. Okay.
And they always
So,
have to go and sniff and who knows what else. So,
yep.
so the organisms, once they're ingested, they make their way to the intestines and often cause diarrhea. The most
Okay.
common cause of transmission is actually waterborne, as the cysts survive in water and soil as long as it's relatively wet. I said cool and moist, cool and wet. And then this parasite, because it prefers the cool and moist environment. Um, an animal can actually swallow a cyst when drinking from a puddle. It's another thing. They could drink
Yeah.
from a puddle outside.
I know when my
Or,
dogs, uh,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say on the puddle. I know I didn't understand why I wasn't supposed to let my dogs drink from the puddle, but I knew that that wasn't a good idea. And when we go on a walk, by the time we get kind of to the end of the walk, JoJo in particular, because she's so aggressive and wants to just run and walk and pull, you know, she's very thirsty. So if we find any little kind of puddles, I know she likes to go find it, and I try to, you know, keep her from going there. But I see what you mean. I can see how that could be a kind of a resting place for giardia to be in that puddle.
Easily, right? So drink from a puddle or a toilet when licking their fur. And now that animal can shed cysts in their diarrhea or fresh stool. And after infection, it takes 5 to 12 days in dogs or 5 to 16 days in cats for giardia to be found in the animal's stool. So they may have it, they may start having diarrhea, you might test them for it, which we're going to talk about in a moment,
Yeah.
and they don't have it, but they really do because it just hasn't shown up yet.
Interesting. So I have a question for you, because I know a lot of us, like, you know, I've been a pet parent pretty much my whole life, and I don't know if my pets have ever had giardia. I've never really you know, had
You would know.
this thorough of a conversation, right, as we're having right now. But my question is, how common is it? Because, you know, I mean, obviously we've got a lot of pet people here on this Instagram live, and we want to help people who, you know, to try to help, you know, people identify this and know what to do with it. How common is it out there in pet
It's
land?
actually really quite common. Okay,
Okay.
it's estimated up to 50% of young puppies will develop this intestinal infection. Up to 100% of dogs housed in kennels will develop it.
Oh
Because they
gosh.
found that infection is more common in a kennel situation where animals are housed in groups. And also, you know, puppies are the same way, right? And it could happen. So you could say, well, how did my puppy get it? I mean, I had that happen myself with one of my puppies, got
Yeah.
her home. She had giardia. And it's not that the puppy went outside. It
Right.
certainly not at my house and definitely not at the breeders. But the other dogs went outside and probably tracked some stuff in, and the puppies lick everything, and there you have it.
You can see why, you know, in a kennel environment, or in a place where there's a lot of kind of critical mass in a small area, it's really very similar to what we're dealing with right now with COVID-19, right? And social distancing, and some of the precautions to make sure we're not just transferring. And I'm sure in an environment like that, where you get a lot of puppies together, or a kennel where there's a lot of dogs, you know, together,
Yeah.
and you can imagine how things spread very quickly. Because I was a little bit shocked to hear you say up to 100% of, you know, pets in a kennel, but I can see now why, based on what you've explained.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. So let's talk about the symptoms now
Okay.
of giardia. Okay.
Okay.
So first, we said before, giardia can happen to both dogs and cats. I know I've spent a lot of time on dogs without in the dog park, et cetera. I'm just trying to get a visual in everybody's mind of what can happen. The same thing for a cat that goes outside, or dog well, you know, yeah, that a cat might go outside or go somewhere or whatever.
Okay.
Okay, so different types of giardia, in fact, different types of animals. It's rare for the giardia, as I mentioned before, from a pet to transmit to a human. And a dog and cat giardia species, they're different. So a dog can't get giardia from a cat. It can't get giardia from a dog. Say that
Okay.
5 times fast. Okay. Okay, and these symptoms are diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, bloating, weight loss. They're being
Hmm.
lethargic. It seems to cause problems with normal intestinal absorption of vitamins and other nutrients.
Okay.
So,
So how would we diagnose, how is giardia diagnosed?
okay, this is very, very important. In the past, diagnosis was difficult. Okay, the stool sample being examined needed to be fresh. Plus, the giardia rarely showed up in the usual fecal testing methods used to detect other parasites. And that's key because people, you know, I'll talk to people and they'll say, you know, I'll ask them, you know, have you tested for giardia? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, they did a stool test. That's not enough. Okay.
Okay.
Um, so this is really important to remember. You need to ask for a special fecal test, a special giardia test. So your vet can diagnose giardia in several different ways. They can view the sample under a microscope at the clinic. They can use the ELISA test kit, which is kind of similar in format to a home pregnancy test. There's not a home pregnancy test, guys. It's a special Giardia test. And it's referred to as the SNAP Giardia test. And this method has dramatically improved the ability to detect Giardia infections, which is really, really important. This test can be completed in just a few minutes while you wait at the clinic, and also your vet can send it out to an outside lab. So both of those things could happen. Now, sometimes pets need to be retested in order to find an infection because asymptomatic carrier animals are common, as I had mentioned before. So just because they don't test that way or that time, you have to look at a lot of different things, right? If they're having diarrhea, is it the food? Is it something they picked up outside, et cetera, et cetera? But I'm telling you, this Giardia stuff, you will know because it's just horrible diarrhea. It's constant. It's terrible, okay? So, but the key thing that you need to take away is that the regular fecal test will not detect Giardia. A special test is needed, and you just tell them, I think my pet has Giardia. Could you please test for Giardia? Okay.
Okay. Now I've got just I think three kind of wrap up questions, but one is how is it treated? So once you know you have it, how does a pet parent treat for it?
Okay, so there's several treatments. There's a broad spectrum dewormer, which is called fenbendazole. I'm not good at these big long words here, but that seems to be the most reliable treatment right now at this time. Metronidazole, which is also known as Flagyl, which is fantastic. It's if they take metronidazole in relatively high doses, that's been a classic treatment for Giardia and does seem to work. But studies show that it may only be effective maybe 65 to 70% of the time. For more resistant cases, both medications are used concurrently, and Fenbendazole is also commonly used for Giardia as it converts to the fenbendazole in the body. So, but there are several things that your vet can use, and they do work, and they will take care of it. Now, because cysts can stick to the fur of the infected patient and be a source of reinfection, the positive animal should receive a bath at least once during the course of the treatment, but definitely the patient needs to have a bath at the end of the treatment course. You don't want this to happen again. Once you've had it, trust me, you do not want to have this again, okay?
Right.
And this is another key thing. It is very important to get your pets retested after completing their meds to ensure the Giardia is gone. Otherwise, your pet will continue to have Giardia, continue to have the diarrhea and other symptoms until the infection is cleared. And that's a problem that a lot of pet parents, that the diarrhea goes away, you take a big sigh of relief, thank goodness it's gone, but it really isn't gone. And then it comes back and you're like, oh, what do I do? That didn't work.
Yeah.
It's just that you just need to retest and make sure it's gone.
Okay. Now, earlier you mentioned humans. Can humans get Giardia?
Short answer to that, Roger, is rarely. So concern is really, pretty low in general,
Okay.
but to play it safe, wear gloves to dispose of pet waste and always thoroughly wash hands before eating. Just if you're doing anything with waste, wash your hands.
Okay.
So.
Now, and I know you can't obviously go, clean, disinfect the entire world and everywhere you walk your pets or let your pets play. But is there anything that we can do to get Giardia out of like my yard?
So Giardia cysts are killed in environments that, by freezing temperatures and direct sunlight. So if neither of these are available when I say available, Mother Nature, to disinfect the area, a chemical disinfectant will be needed. The most effective disinfectant that's readily available is probably bleach diluted in water. And one study that I read shows that indicates that it really requires less than a minute of contact to kill Giardia cysts with that. Ammonia compounds can also be used to kill Giardia. However, decontamination with a chemical disinfectant should not be used around lawns or plants, as the chemicals will kill them. So it's best to allow those areas to dry out in direct sunlight. And hopefully Mother Nature's on your side and can help you here. And also one last thing, animals should be, we talked about bathing, they should be thoroughly bathed before being reintroduced into the clean area because otherwise they'll contaminate the clean
Mm,
area.
gotcha.
Um, and a properly chlorinated swimming pool, this has come up to a lot of people want to know they have pools. They should not be able to become contaminated because they have, they've been chlorinated.
Okay.
So
Wow.
this is a big topic. This is more common than you would imagine. We get more questions about, not questions about giardia, but it ends up that the problem is giardia. People are thinking it's the food or thinking something else. And 9 times out of 10, when I ask them to please go and get a test at the vet, it's giardia. So it's more common than you would think. We
It,
hear
it,
about it all the time.
it's great to be empowered. When we know things like this, we can be observant, we can watch, we can be mindful. We know how to act and how to treat this quickly, because it really is. It's uncomfortable, obviously, for the pets. They don't want to have, excessive diarrhea, and certainly we don't either. Especially in our homes, it's frustrating, and it's frustrating for everybody. And so, being aware of this, I think awareness is a really big part of the answer, just to be aware that this is a common problem. It's much more common. I appreciate your insights because I'm leaving this live knowing that it's a much bigger, more common problem than I certainly understood before this. And so now I feel empowered that if I do see something, excessive diarrhea, it's on my radar to say, hey, you know what, let me get the proper test. Let me go to my vet and make sure I ask for that specifically. And then, the vet, even if I don't remember everything that you helped educate us with today, if I know that much and I can get it to get that treated with my veterinarian, I'm sure my veterinarian can help me manage through the process and help my pet have more comfort, more relief, and me less frustration with cleaning up after accidents. So very helpful. Thank you, Brooke. A wonderful lunch and learn. We'll be back again next
Well,
week.
it was a wonderful learn. I don't know if many people lunched during this time.
That's right. Yeah, maybe not this, time, but we'll be back. We've been doing these lunch and learns every Friday at 12:30 Central Time, and we're rotating back and forth between Facebook Live and Instagram Live. You guys have a great day. Brooke, thanks again for spending some of your time and imparting your wonderful wisdom to help us all be better pet parents. And hope
My
everybody,
pleasure. Thank
wonderful.
you.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.